Time Out magazine calls the first movie in this franchise seminal Law and Order cinema. Barbara Schulgasser of Common Sense Media calls the next film in this series a cop sequel that has lots of violence, sex, and profanity. And Roger Ebert, who loves these movies, reviews the fourth movie in this series, saying, "To all those cowboy movies we saw in our youth, all those TV westerns and cop dramas and war movies, this film has brought a great simplification. A big man, a big gun, a bad guy, and instant justice." On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Dirty Harry.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, starfighters.
That's it. I knew that was coming.
Oh, you know what? It's iconic. Where it's, Dirty Harry, man. It's Clint.
Yeah. This is our second foray into the Eastwoodiverse. After covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. We haven't done any other Clint Eastwoods, have we? I don't think so.
No, I was trying to.
Nothing he even directed or anything, huh? Yeah.
No, I think this is really it's our first foray into an I guess the only Eastwood franchises are really this and The Man with No Name trilogy. Right. So, I guess we've done Clint Eastwood, and we'll talk about him, a bit more. I'm sure it's unavoidable. But Clint Eastwood, has had iconic roles and has made iconic films for decades. But, like The Man with No Name and Dirty Harry were kind of like the two characters that defined him in those two different worlds. And it was like a lot of his other characters were maybe not derivative of that, but like every cowboy character he played after The Man with No Name happened because of that.
He never really played like Mr. Chipper from down the street. He was always kind of the dark, mysterious.
Gran Torino,
guy.
he's Mr. Maybe not Mr. Chipper from down the street.
No, definitely not. No. But yeah, he kind of just made his mark doing that kind of stuff. I was originally going to say that he wasn't like a song and dance man, but on Rawhide, he was a song man. So I wouldn't have been correct in saying that so much. And
I want to say
it was Rawhide that he was on, right?
He was on. Was he on Rawhide or Gunsmoke? No, yeah, I think he was. I believe he was on Rawhide. Yeah,
I think it's Rawhide.
Here we are ready to talk about Clint Eastwood, and we're like, I don't know. How did his career start? I don't know. Yeah, Rawhide. It was Rawhide. I don't know why I was second guessing about
I
Gunsmoke.
Second guessed first. Anyway.
So I third guessed?
You third guessed. Yeah, so
anyway,
hello, everybody. Welcome
hi.
to Ruined Childhoods.
Yes.
Right after we recorded our last episode, I texted Dan and I said, we really messed up. Because our episode 123, this is episode 123, and I was like, man, we should have done The Taking of Pelham 123. Or there's so many other things where 123 would have made sense. And but
although I thought about that too. I was like, what are there other? The other thing I could think about was like Sesame Street.
I was thinking something along those lines too.
Did we Follow That Bird? Which, by the way, as I was looking through IMDb at movies that are coming out over like the next year, for absolutely no reason, I noticed that there is a new Sesame Street movie expected in 2022.
A straight up Sesame Street movie? I knew there was going to be a new Muppet movie.
Straight up Sesame Street.
Okay.
It's like the title, I think, is Sesame Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, and I don't know if Follow That Bird is included in the canon there, or
I don't know, but Follow the Bird, I believe my first movie theater experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what yours was?
I don't.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Not in the sense that you would remember it. It's just that I've been told that Follow That Bird was my first movie theater experience.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't. Yeah, of all of the movie experiences I remember, they say you never forget your first. Well, I did. I guess probably because I was like probably super young.
Yeah.
I might have been. I want to say like maybe like a 101 Dalmatians or like Lady in the Tramp
like a
or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But I could also be totally off on that.
Well, if we're talking about, going back to the theater, I said in the last episode, my first time back to the theater since COVID was the Sparks Brothers, the documentary about Russell and Ron Mael. But I went back for a second time to see F9, the latest in the Fast and Furious franchise last night, because I was given a forced night away from responsibilities from my wife.
A forced night away?
Well, yeah, she was just like, Friday night, just fuck off. Like, in a nice way. It was just like you know what? After you pick up the kid from school, just take off. I got it. Don't worry about it. Do whatever you want. And there's not much to do. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll see what movies are playing. And I was like, you know what? That's one that I'm not going to enjoy as much sitting at home. So here we go. And it was a lot of fun. It's a Fast and the Furious movie. I like them better when The Rock is in them. And this one did not have him in them.
John Cena is not a suitable substitution for The Rock.
I liked John Cena a lot in the movie Cock Blockers, or Blockers, I think is what they officially called it, which is a very fun, like, I'm pretty sure it's an R-rated comedy, but it's a lot of fun, and he's great in that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him in Trainwreck. He had a
very small role in Trainwreck, but...
Right. But I still, I enjoy it. And as a pro wrestling fan, been watching John Cena since he was, since before he started doing his Vanilla Ice impersonations, which is kind of what got him over as a wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, he was fine in it, but like he wasn't Dwayne Johnson. Yeah.
No, well, who is other than Dwayne Johnson?
Yeah. And it's one of those movies where there are parts of it that are like laughably bad and completely ridiculous, but who cares? It's a Fast and the Furious movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're going in for.
Yeah. And I also was briefly at not a movie theater, but a cinema experience. And we'll talk about this also again a little bit later, but the organization that I work for here in Portland, Oregon, the Northwest Film Center, is hosting a series of summer movies. And I went to the very first one of the series the other night. They were showing The Life Aquatic on the rooftop of a shopping mall's like parking structure. So that was fun to go take pictures and do videos and stuff over there. So they were doing Life Aquatic. What's up?
No, it's funny because that sentence, and like I love, and like you guys have an awesome lineup, but it's so funny because that sentence like had a pitfall of coolness, because it went from like, all right, we showed The Life Aquatics, like, oh, all right, cool. I'm like, that's actually one of the Wes Anderson films that's like more towards the top of my list. I love that when I saw that in the theater, and then you were like, oh yeah, we're showing it on a rooftop. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Of the parking structure at a shopping mall.
Well, okay, then let me. Okay, does it help it if I tell you that the shopping mall contains a Suncoast video? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We're back in. Yeah, the Lloyd Center. If anybody is familiar with the Lloyd Center in Portland, it's on the roof of the Lloyd Center parking structure. And it's a lot of fun. There's, beer and wine and food and all sorts of good stuff. And so there's going to be a lot of awesome movies there. And we're also doing a drive-in theater at OMSI, which, if anybody isn't familiar with OMSI, it's the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. So it's your typical science museum, but they are hosting our outdoor drive-in theater stuff. So if you go to nwfilm.org, NW as in Northwest, nwfilm.org, then you can see the full slate and buy tickets. I purchased tickets to go see what we're going to be covering on our next episode. That's going to be showing on Saturday night of next week, a week from when we're recording this, actually. So,
but we won't be. We will reveal that at the end of the episode. Of course, you can also go to the website that John just gave you.
Yes, and also if you are listening to this like the morning it comes out, then you may still have a chance to vote for Statue of Limitations on the myroadcast.com. It's the Rode microphone company. It's their annual podcast competition. If you go to myroadcast.com, actually, if you go to our link tree, there's a link to it in there. So it's linktr.ee/ruinchildhoods. Check that out. It's there's a link to it in this episode's description too. Anyway, off topic. Let's get back on.
But you know what, though? It's on the topic because Statue of Limitations is a great idea for a podcast, but it's something, and you and I have talked about this. This is something that requires care, thought, and funding.
Right. So essentially, if anybody's listened to this podcast before and has heard us talk about something that we've been calling the Hindsight Awards, where it's like, in hindsight, maybe this should have been, an Oscar contender or something like that. And rather than us two white guys, deciding how to rewrite Oscar history, it should be placed in the hands of people with maybe a more diverse background than us, and maybe a more educated background than us.
Because it's not just a question of like, should Capote have beaten Crash in 2005 for Best Picture. This is also coming from a perspective of representation and voice, because a lot of what we've covered and talked about, especially films like like John Waters films and something like Watermelon Man. Those are not, especially the farther back you go in time, the less of an opportunity these films and their filmmakers had to be recognized by a board like the Academy.
Oh, the Academy. Well.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Right, yeah, which has a history of having mostly older white male voters. And it really prohibits a lot of lesser known movies from, getting the attention that they deserve just because they were made by somebody who wasn't white. Or so many other factors that could have been leading into it,
or it was, and maybe just like presented material that was so challenging.
Sure.
And I would also, I don't know if this is part of the vision, but also movies that have shown themselves to be especially influential throughout time. So like, yes. For instance, would there be discussion on Statue of Limitations of Blue Velvet being nominated for Best Picture 1986?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it really has to do with movies that really have stood the test of time and, that we don't look back on and kind of like cringe a little bit. And, when you think about movies like Gone with the Wind, it's like, doesn't really hold up all that well looking back on it. And it's like, we'll of course factor in where it stands in the place of filmmaking, but how certain things were handled, maybe not.
And this is something that I know I want to talk about as to how it relates to Dirty Harry.
Ooh.
So there are films that when you look at them from a current perspective, from a contemporary perspective, they're cringy. But sometimes when you look back at them and you say like, all right, looking at it from the perspective then, it might be it's kind of like, okay, all right, I get it. Like that would not happen today, but from that perspective, from that time, like, okay, that's cool. Then there are the others that are like, wow,
Yeah.
even for that time, that's still pretty, like, this movie is definitely pushing this type of ideal, these type of ideas and this type of messaging, which even then was kind of, it wasn't one of those like, oh, we didn't know things.
Right.
It's kind of like you knew.
Yeah. And in a movie like Dirty Harry, there's like playful racism for this sense of, bringing in humor. You're giving me a look.
Yeah. Anyway, because we're gonna get to talking about John. So before John gets into the brief synopses of the films in the Dirty Harry series, we should note that we each kind of took on different films in the series. We've both seen the original Dirty Harry, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and then we kind of divided up. There are 5 in total, and I watched 1976's The Enforcer, the third Dirty Harry movie, and 1988's The Deadpool, the fifth one.
So
and I've
neither of
also
us
seen
watched
part of Sudden Impact.
Okay, so neither of us have seen 1973's Magnum Force.
Correct. I think I might have seen it at some point, but
okay.
I can't talk about it.
Okay.
Like, I don't.
So Sudden Impact. So first of all, I'd say that actually, with the exception of the first and the last of these movies, the titles for these are kind of nonsense titles that could be titles for just any action movie. Magnum Force, The Enforcer, and Sudden Impact. Like,
well, it's like the other non-Dirty Harry movies that Clint Eastwood made in the 70s and 80s, like the cop, like Tightrope, and there's another one, and I'm, as I was like trying to look through and say like, all right, where are the Dirty Harry movies streaming? It's like, wait a second, was that one a Dirty Harry movie? No, no,
so Dirty Harry, clearly that's an appropriate title for the first movie, and then you have the last one, which is The Deadpool, not to be confused with Deadpool, and that makes sense.
That is where the inspiration came for the name.
But it does make sense in the context of the plot, because there is a dead pool, a death pool, a pool of celebrity deaths. And so let me tell you just briefly about my viewing for these. So I watched Dirty Harry, and then the next night I saw that HBO had Sudden Impact. So I'm watching Sudden Impact, and then Laura, my wife, comes into the room and she's like, "Hey, will you watch the latest episode of Loki with me real quick?" And I was like, "Sure, no problem. I'll get back to this after." So I watch Loki with her, and I go back to HBO to watch it, and it's not in the like continue watching. I'm searching for Sudden Impact. It has disappeared. And I looked to see, I was like, it was the 31st or something. And I was like looking back and I was like, is this movie leaving HBO like today? Like, did I start it and then they took it off while I was watching Loki? And that's exactly what happened. So I did not see the end of the movie. I saw most of it, but I did not see the end of the movie. And I was like, that's just so perfect. That's you just got to strike while the iron's hot, I guess, with these streaming movies.
Yeah, it's funny because I had started Sudden Impact and then you said you were going to watch it. So I was like, okay, I'll get back to that one and finish it, time permitting. And then when last night, I went
yeah.
on,
Gone.
oh no, today's the 3rd. So I think it was like on the 1st, that I went to watch the rest of it and saw it was gone, and I was like,
Yeah. And you know what? These things happen. That's okay.
Yeah. No, what's funny is the Dirty Harry movies that I watched or were not streaming on HBO, so I had just kind of, digitally rented them. Anyway, long story short, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Enforcer after the synopses, but in terms of playful racism, playful sexism, and all that, I think the Enforcer is less so.
It's less playful.
It is really, I kind of want to talk about this all as a whole after talking about the movies, but it's really poorly, it's really poorly written.
Okay. All right. So, I'm going to just start off with, I wrote my synopsis for Dirty Harry, and then I'm going to read on the Dirty Harry Wikipedia page, the synopses for Magnum Force, The Enforcer, Sudden Impact, and the Deadpool, because they're all very brief. But what they do mention is the famous lines that come from each of the movies, which is, I think, an important thing to mention along with the plots, because, Dirty Harry, whether you've seen it or not, some of those quotes. So, it's an important part of its legacy. So, here we go. When the going gets tough, the SFPD gets Harry Callahan, whether they like it or not. Harry plays by his own rulebook, which often means the job doesn't always get done in the eyes of the law. Such is the case when there's a sharpshooter incident on a rooftop pool and a cryptic note is left by a self-proclaimed Scorpio killer. He demands $100,000 or else he will kill again each day until he gets the money. Harry and his new partner are on the case, which goes off the rails from minute one. That's my synopsis, because if I get into it, it's just like, and then this happens, and then that, and it's whatever. But this is the one where we get the, are you feeling lucky? Well, are you, punk? And and then there's Magnum Force, which is 2 years later. And the main theme of this is vigilante justice, and the plot revolves around a group of renegade traffic cops who are executing criminals who have avoided conviction in court. Despite Harry's penchant for strong-arm methods, he does not tolerate cold-blooded murder of the accused and resolves to stop the killers. In this film, Harry's catchphrase is, "A man's gotta know his limitations." In The Enforcer, Harry is teamed with a female partner with no field experience. In 1976, American women had only recently been allowed to fill patrol and investigative assignments in most police bureaus. Okay. Inspector Kate Moore, as they take on a terrorist ring calling themselves the People's Revolutionary Strike Force. Harry opposes introducing inexperienced officers to the dangers of police work, whether male or female, and sees the homicide division as too dangerous for his new partner, who worked until recently in the personnel department. Though Moore starts out overenthusiastic, she soon proves herself valuable to Harry and matures quickly, earning Harry's respect in the process. Dan, does The Enforcer have any fun taglines, quotes, anything like that? It doesn't say anything.
Yeah, no. No, I could give you, I think the one quote that I wrote down from it is the one that's just the most blatantly racist one. Which is at one point where, as of course he's like, the commissioner is yelling at him and they're talking about, someone mentions the minority community and he goes, "By minority community, I suppose you're talking about the hoods."
Okay.
Yeah, it's racist, it's sexist. There are so many problems that kind of fit into the larger issues with the series.
Gotcha. So then after The Enforcer, we have Sudden Impact. This is the only one that Clint Eastwood directed. Aging but still bitter, Callahan is sent into a small town to follow up a lead in a murder case, which leads him directly to a rape victim who is out to avenge herself and her catatonic sister by killing the people who sexually assaulted them. The film is notable for Callahan's catchphrase, "Go ahead, make my day." So that one, if I remember what I saw, it's not that he went there to follow up on a lead in a murder case. He went to that town because he was forced to take a vacation because he had a case like thrown out that he was investigating because he did everything improperly. So the judge was like, yeah, none of this evidence is admissible, so we have to dismiss the case. So I think his chief was like, you're taking a vacation.
Right. That happened. And I was trying to remember if because this is the guy's killed in the car out on this, like, overlook. And isn't he sent down there? I think he's on the case and then he gets like taken off of the case.
I think so. And yeah, and then he ends up back on it by accident, really. And in this one, he also has a dog sidekick who farts, a farting bulldog who's who goes between being male and female consistently throughout the movie.
Yeah. So, this is also the one where he gives a guy a heart attack just by talking to him.
Right. He gives a guy a heart attack. The killer shoots her assailants from the past in the dick and then shoots them in the head. RoboCop style.
Except point blank range.
Point blank range. Yeah, shoots him in the dick. Okay, and then we have the Deadpool from 1988. And Harry finds that he is among the subjects of a Deadpool, a game betting on deaths of celebrities. Someone tries to rig the game by killing the celebrities on one player's list. Harry's catchphrase in this movie is "You're shit out of luck." Okay, so I think that the Deadpool, and Dan, you just saw this one recently, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But is this the one where he maybe also coined the phrase "opinions are like assholes, everyone's got one"?
He definitely says it. I wasn't sure if he coined that phrase.
It may be the first time that's ever been said. I was trying to look up the origin of it, and there's nothing that's clear, but this movie does come up a few times. So
he definitely does say that.
Yeah.
In the Deadpool, which I liked, by the way. I just to
No, it sounds plot-wise like a pretty interesting one. I kind of want to go back and watch it, despite the fact that, full disclosure, I was kind of like pretty sickened by these movies, especially with the current political climate of the police and Harry Callahan's shoot first, ask questions later attitude. He definitely feels like he has a license to kill, and I do not condone that type of thing.
Right. Yeah. He's and first of all, so in just watching it as an entertainment movie, if I turn everything if I just shut everything off and I watch it as a piece of just pure fiction,
right,
I enjoy the first one and I enjoyed the Deadpool. And I would actually say the Deadpool doesn't suffer as much from those problems as at least the original Dirty Harry, and definitely the Enforcer.
Well, I do have to say, first of all, that Dirty Harry, the first movie, benefits greatly from Andy Robinson, who plays the killer, the Scorpio killer, who is excellent, very, very menacing, just does an incredible job given some of the source material. And this one is very much inspired, and many things are taken directly from the Zodiac killer, the Zodiac killings, which happened in the Bay Area, and shortly before this time. Was it still going on at this time?
He might have been.
I know that.
I think Harry is partially based on one of the cops.
Yeah, David Toshi, who was played by Mark Ruffalo in Zodiac.
Was it Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah. And in Zodiac, there's a scene where David Toshi comes out of the theater and he's seeing Dirty Harry.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, I think that for me, a movie like this is harder to not think about those kind of things because it's Clint Eastwood, and just knowing his politics, it can be a little challenging to kind of separate those things. Whereas if I'm watching something like, I don't know, Terminator, I think it's a little bit different because it's like, there's science fiction elements and like there's things that don't really set it in our real world.
Right. Yes. So anyway, so when you look at it, here's the thing is it's one of those movies where even looking at it from the 1970s perspective, it's still really problematic. It pushes the idea that we should look up to cops who play by their own rules and make their own determinations that maybe aren't as much based on evidence.
Yeah.
And we're given, and there's a lot of groups in this that it's kind of like they're pushing, like there's a propaganda here. And one of the things I wrote down was like, and so we know now, at least based on what we've heard from like John Ehrlichman from the Nixon administration, that the war on drugs was fabricated so that they could have an excuse to arrest people of color and hippies. So, and it's like Dirty Harry is like a lieutenant in the war on drugs. And I was curious, and it occurred to me that all of the Dirty Harry movies, 5 Dirty Harry movies, have only come out under Republican administrations.
Oh, that's
2
really
under
fascinating.
Nixon, 2 under Nixon,
right?
1 under Ford, and 2 under Reagan.
Yes.
So
speaking of Reagan, I'm gonna go ahead and play a clip from a Reagan speech.
Scene in the Senate Budget Committee this past week was a disappointing one, I think, for the American people. They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. When push comes to shove, I guess it's always easier to let the taxpayer take the fall. Let them be forewarned. No matter how well-intentioned they might be, no matter what their illusions might be, I have my veto pen drawn and ready for any tax increase that Congress might even think of sending up. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
Huge laugh from the audience. Huge laugh.
Of course. I mean, fucking Reagan was a movie cowboy.
Yeah.
They both did movies with monkeys.
Right.
Like, come on. But so it's problematic in that respect. And I broke it down. There's like 4 groups of people that Dirty Harry and or Clint Eastwood are at war with in these.
Okay.
And it's Dirty Harry versus women, people of color, liberals, and bureaucrats.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. Because the women, I mean, I was kind of interested. I was like, all right, so Tyne Daly plays Tyne Daly, who's, it's not like they cast Rebecca De Mornay.
Right.
You got Tyne Daly playing his
I wish
partner.
they would have. I love Rebecca De Mornay.
Yeah. I mean, in 1976, I don't know.
No.
Yeah. But Tyne Daly, and then it's like they kind of just make her this. They make it seem like she's not at all qualified for the position she's in. And they actually imply that maybe she's not qualified, but like, oh, there's quotas they have to hit.
Uh-huh.
And
Tyne Daly, by the way, is in The Enforcer. She plays Kate Moore.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. She's in The Enforcer. And she is, I was reading, and I mean, it's IMDb trivia, so take it with a grain of salt. But there's a scene where they're in an autopsy room, And the guys are all gagging and sorry, I should be clearer with my terms there. They're laughing and joking. And then I was reading an IMDb trivia that I forget it was the director or the editor who decided they wanted to add a little green tint to her face to make it
really
look like she's sick. And I mean, she plays it too, and she's kind of like a shitty cop. So there's that. He's also got female film critics. So first there's in the Deadpool, there's this, a female film critic who's on the Deadpool list, and apparently she was created to represent Pauline Kael. Now,
oh, really?
Pauline Kael, Clint Eastwood, this is this weird story. This is from Sandra Locke's autobiography. Sandra Locke, who is in Sudden Impact and was married to Eastwood.
Yeah. Right.
So she, in her autobiography, wrote that after Pauline Kael gave a bad review of I don't know if it was double. It might have been. It might have been. Sorry. Sudden Impact.
Were you going to say Double Impact?
I almost said Double Impact. First I was going to say Dirty Harry, and then Sudden Impact. But like Double Impact definitely leapt in there. But anyway, after she gave the movie a bad review, Eastwood asked a psychiatrist to read her reviews of his past work and do an analysis. Oh, by the way, according to Sandra Locke, Eastwood also memorized these reviews.
Wow.
And apparently this analysis concluded that Pauline Kael was physically attracted to Clint Eastwood, and because she couldn't have him, she hated him. And he wrote off the bad reviews as just vengeance. How shitty is, I mean, like, that's just so shitty on so many levels.
That's incredible.
Right. And I actually, to be honest with you, John, I have a really complicated relationship with Clint Eastwood movies because I know how like shitty he can be.
Yeah.
But he is also, and I don't always like him in movies, but like, I like In the Line of Fire. I'm not going to stop liking In the Line of Fire. I love Unforgiven.
All right. So it's interesting that you bring up In the Line of Fire, because that's one that I watched somewhat recently. And I was thinking, okay, so he directed that one and he stars in it. And
he did not direct it.
Oh, he did not direct it.
Wolfgang Petersen.
Oh, why did I think that he directed it? Well, I don't know.
Because he was directed, because he won the Oscar for Best Director like earlier the year it came out.
Oh,
so
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's just so funny because that one, it's like, his love interest in it, I can't remember who it is at the moment. Renee Russo. That's right. For some reason, my mind was like, Laura Linney. No,
she's interested.
Yes. But it's like, she's significantly younger than he is.
Yeah.
And he has like, I'm going to go ahead and say it, like zero sexual charisma in like any of the like romantic scenes. It just feels like an awkward old man, like a narcissistic old man, just kind of tooting his own horn.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, my favorite parts of In the Line of Fire have less to do with Clint Eastwood than they do like the editing, the pace.
It's
John Malkovich.
Oh my God, John Malkovich was so good in that. Oh my God,
yeah, Oscar nominated. Anyway, I know we're not talking about that, but so I feel like Eastwood's definitely got this thing with women, and then with people of color, it's not 100%, but like maybe 75 to 85% of the low-level criminals,
the bank robbers,
liquor store robbers, bank robbers are people
Diner
of color.
robbers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your higher level criminals, your organized crime figures, are still ethnic, but they
Italian.
are not people of Italian, I think Greek. I think I feel like the guy who he gives the heart attack to at the beginning of Sudden Impact, I think is Greek. There was the guy he was in Godfather, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So no, that's makes a lot of sense. And I definitely picked up on the fact that the people that do commit the crimes that aren't like the major crimes of the movies all seem to be, black mostly.
They throw a few white guys in there, and there's more when it's the in the Enforcer, the like the People's Liberation Army, whatever. It's supposed to be like the people who kidnapped Patty Hearst.
Yeah.
Which we talked about on our Serial Mom episode. That's right.
Yeah.
So the people and it was kind of based on them. So I mean I guess that's another group that he's up against here. Is the counterculture, right? Whether it's like it's San Francisco in the early 1970s, so it's kind of after the heyday of the hippie movement, but still like San Francisco is like a counterculture capital.
Yeah.
So you've got so now you have this movie, and it's why like they weren't even sure if they were going to make. I forget if it was the Deadpool or Sudden Impact, because San Francisco was kind of like, I don't know if we want you to make this movie here. And it wasn't originally going to be set in San Francisco.
Yeah, and Sudden Impact, doesn't take place in San Francisco. Right. So there's that at least.
Yeah. But most of the movies open, or at some point near the opening, they have like the shots of the waterfront, and you see the port of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. It's a great city to shoot in. It's a great action movie city.
It's a great action movie. It's a great espionage city. Like The Conversation is a movie that's set there that works really well.
It's a really great city for movies that are about divorced dads trying to win back their children by dressing up as an elderly British nanny.
Or widowers who are taking care of their 3 daughters with the help of their brother-in-law and best friend, Uncle Joey.
It's a really great city to make a movie about a lounge singer from Reno who needs to hide away, so she hides away in a convent.
Oh, absolutely. Just as good as it is to make a movie about Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery and Ed Harris.
Yeah, although I'd put that one kind of just on a very small, specific island, just in the middle of the bay there.
Yeah, that does. The Rock does have that awesome.
It does have in the beginning.
Chasing. Yeah. So anyway, sorry. So getting back to Dirty Harry. So there are. We're going to take some time off from the critique, but there are some really iconic, like the quotes, and there are some other really iconic moments in Dirty Harry. And I have to share, when I watched the original Dirty Harry, I had such a laugh out loud moment. And I think like growing up in the age of the Abrams parodies and Mel Brooks, like we as kids saw a lot of these movies before seeing the movies that they parody.
Oh, just like we mentioned on the UHF episode, we were more familiar with the Weird Al parodies or the Weird Al polka versions of the songs than we were with the original songs. Right.
And one thing I love about like the Naked Gun and an Airplane is that they make references without kind of like pausing the story to do them. So when I first saw The Naked Gun, I had no idea that any of it was parodying Dirty Harry.
Right. So the scene that you're referencing, it's like, it's such a subtle reference, but when you watch them back to back, you are just like, oh, wow. So I'm going to play first the one from Dirty Harry, and then immediately after, you're going to hear the one from The Naked Gun.
We'll do it this way, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Come on, Callahan, let's go.
Callahan!
Sir?
I don't want any more trouble like you had last year in the Fillmore district. Understand? That's my policy.
Yeah, well, when an adult male is chasing a female with intent to commit rape, I shoot the bastard. That's my policy.
Oh, Drebin. I don't want any more trouble like you had last year on the South Side. Understand? That's my policy.
Yes, well, when I see 5 weirdos dressed in togas stabbing a guy in the middle of the park in full view of 100 people, I shoot the bastards. That's my policy.
That was a Shakespeare in the Park production of Julius Caesar, you moron. You killed 5 actors. Good ones.
It's so funny. But first of all, Harry Callahan, you could simply arrest the guy or, maybe, warn him or try to arrest him somehow before just shooting him.
Yeah.
He also shoots to kill. He doesn't shoot the leg or something.
Right. No, and he's already established, he knows the guy isn't armed other than the butcher knife, I guess, and the hard-on, but...
So, since we're talking about the references and the parodies, first I want to play the 2 scenes, one from the beginning, one from the end, where we do hear the famous Are You Feeling Lucky scene, and then I'm going to play a few other variations of it.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But Ian, this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Hey. I got to know.
Points the gun at him. All right, and then this one is from the end of the movie, and I'm going to get to use my new sound effect.
Spoiler alert.
I know what you're thinking, punk. You're thinking, did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Now, to tell you the truth, I forgot myself in all this excitement. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and will blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
So, Dan, I want to play you a series of references to this classic scene. I will start with the movie The Mask, starring Jim Carrey.
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punks?
They have like little bang flags. And now, if you're wondering if Jim Carrey, who was also in the Deadpool,
yes,
I knew you were thinking that.
My hand was up.
If you're wondering if that's the only time that he's referenced a scene, you're wrong, because in Bruce Almighty, this happens.
Come on now, calm down. Do not meet God. You do not have his powers. If that was God, then I'm Clint Eastwood. Holy hell! Be careful what you wish for, punk. No! Nope. Nope. I am a reasonable, sane human being. 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world. I'm not Clint Eastwood. I'm Bruce Nolan. Bruce Nolan. I'm Bruce. No! Clint!
And Jim Carrey also did a lot of Clint Eastwood impressions in his stand-up days, his early stand-up. So clearly this was just like in his utility belt, and he found opportunities to bust it out.
Though interestingly, that was not how he got the part in Deadpool. That was with his an Elvis routine.
Oh, was it an Elvis thing that he was doing?
Yeah, he auditioned for an Elvis. Well, his role in Deadpool, he's got a small role as a rock star who's appearing in a movie directed by a character played by Liam Neeson.
Oh my God!
And
yeah, that one's got a lot of Patricia Clarkson. Is in
her
that
first
one?
her first movie? Yeah, Patricia Clarkson.
Oh, that was her first. She's wonderful.
Yeah. No, she's great. But yeah, so Jim Carrey plays this rock star who hit the sound effect.
Spoiler alert.
Is one of the victims of the Deadpool.
Gotcha.
Yes. It happens in like the first, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of the movie. So
okay.
Not really a spoiler alert, but we've got the sound effect.
So this also comes up in an episode, of course, of Family Guy.
What the hell, Lois? Why don't I have a real checkbook?
Peter, where do checks come from?
When a mommy and daddy love each other?
That's why.
Lois, I want my own checkbook, and I want it now.
Ooh, I like when Dad talks tough. He sounds like Dirty Harry.
You gotta ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Oh, Mr. Harry. You're really not gonna like what I have to say.
It's a leprechaun. And then if anybody's familiar with I think it's 2011 movie Hick with Chloe Grace Moretz, there is a reference to this.
Now I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or 5? Now ask yourself, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Pop, 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 pop.
She's kind of standing in front of a mirror. It's very Taxi Driver. It's almost like she's mixing up the two references.
Likely.
And Dan, there's also a hilarious reference in another parody movie, Loaded Weapon 1.
Yes.
Which takes place after a big shootout at a convenience store.
I know what you're thinking, punk. You're thinking, did he fire 173 times or 174? Well, do you feel lucky, punk?
So, yeah. Nice. And then the other really, really big one, of course, is the Go Ahead, Make My Day. So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip from that one from Sudden Impact, which might come back at the end. I wouldn't know because HBO took it off mid-view. So here's the one from the beginning.
Go ahead. Make my day.
That one doesn't have much fanfare leading up to it. It's really just, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So we've already heard the Ronald Reagan Go Ahead, Make My Day. This one is from I don't know if this was actually in an episode, but it's from an ad for an upcoming season of Justified with Timothy Olyphant. Buy your Timothy Olyphant swag at our TeePublic store.
Yeah.
The situation feels very familiar. In fact, I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 17 shots or 16? I think I may have lost track myself. So I suppose there's only one question you should be asking yourself.
Do I feel lucky?
Why wasn't I watching the other hand?
Justified, season premiere Wednesday at 10, only on FX.
Sorry, that one, I thought that I mislabeled that one as a Make My Day one. That is another Lucky Funk one. But this one, this Borat clip is definitely a Make My Day one.
Movie star at Dirty Harold. Yes. Come on and make my day, Jewel.
So
wait, was that from the show? Was that from the Ali G show, or was
that one? He goes into a gun store and asks what gun would be best to kill a Jew.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
There's one more, but I'm gonna wait to play it, and you'll know why.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure there. Oh wait, I have another one that I can play.
A stranger rode into Big Barry's because he heard tell of Barry's great grub at down home prices.
Table for one, stranger?
Go on, Big Barry. Make my dinner. So Big Barry cooked up his famous chicken and ribs, mouth-watering seafood, a juicy steak, and a steer burger, too. Great grub, Big Barry. Now everyone knows about Big Barry's great grub and down home prices.
I'm Big Barry. I'll make your dinner and lunch, too.
Big Barry's, Lake Grove and Rocky Point, Long Island.
So I think that there was also another Go Ahead Make My Dinner from like a frozen dinner company, like a Stouffer's kind of thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. That's the only one that I found, but I could swear there was a Go Ahead Make My Lasagna or something. That was.
There's a line. Yeah, there's a lot. Okay. I think I know what the other one is that you have. Okay.
Oh, you think you know what it is?
I do. Does it, were you going to save it for when we announce the next movie we're covering?
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. I thought that you were talking about the Go Ahead.
No. I was, yes, but as I was, I've been sitting here thinking the whole time, and I was remembering the line, but I couldn't remember what movie it was from. And then it kind of came together, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
it's in our next movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, these iconic lines that are, they far surpass the fame of the movies themselves, because even when I was talking to you about Go Ahead Make My Day, you were like, oh, I thought that was in the first one. And it's like, no, that's in like the fourth. So
right. Yeah. I didn't know if he repeated that one.
No. They just kind of like got that lightning in a bottle 2 times with the memorable lines.
Yeah, the other ones didn't like, you're in deep shit. Of course, I think he only says it like once, or like I think he says it like maybe twice in that, or maybe 3 times. I don't know, in the Deadpool.
Yeah. So Dan.
Well, yes.
I was going to ask you if you had anything else that you wanted to talk about before we move on to what we do on this show, which is talk about how we could bring these movies back.
Right. Well, and before we go into our ideas, I did want to mention some of the other, the ways that this property has lived on beyond the, the theatrical releases.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, apparently Clint Eastwood said after making The Enforcer that he wasn't going to make another Dirty Harry movie. So Warner Brothers decided to publish a bunch of books.
That makes sense.
And they created a pen name and just had all these different authors write all of these books. And so if you look it up, it's Dirty Harry novels by Dane Hartman. And there are 12 of them that came out from August 1981 to March 1983.
Okay.
We've got Duel for Cannons, Death on the Docks, The Long Death, The Mexico Kill, Family Skeletons, City of Blood, Massacre at Russian River,
oh my God,
Hatchet Men, The Killing Connection, Blood of the Strangers, Death in the Air, and The Dealer of Death.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so not included, on the summer reading list. So
yeah, okay, but that's interesting. So there's plenty of source material should there be any future projects.
Right. Well, and there have also been, there were rumors that Gran Torino, which came out in 2008, was going to be a Dirty Harry movie, but like Clint Eastwood has gone on the record. Now, he said there was a book about Clint Eastwood, American Rebel, The Life of Clint Eastwood, that was published in 2009 by Mark Elliott, where Eastwood said that he was just kind of like making fun. He was like, no, Dirty Harry's retired. Harry's too old. And though he said there was another book published in 92 by Michael Munn called Clint Eastwood Hollywood's Loner.
Uh-huh.
Where he does say about Dirty Harry that it's fun once in a while to have a character you can go back to. It's like revisiting an old friend you haven't seen for a long time. You figure, I'll go back and see how he feels about things now. So that kind of leads me to where I am on this. Now, first of all, fantasy of fantasy, we would have a franchise crossover in the Warner Brothers family, and where Dirty Harry Callahan teams up with his cousin Debbie Callahan from the Police Academy series. And they just beat the shit out of everybody. Yeah.
They have a lot of the same, mentalities about law enforcement, but I'd say he's more of a Tackleberry, but...
well, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that you could find more Dirty Harry. I'm pretty sure Tackleberry, there's like some type of Dirty Harry reference somewhere
I'm sure.
in Police Academy. But yeah, the Debbie Callahan and Harry Callahan team up. But no. So actually, here's where I am on this. And yeah, like Clint Eastwood is 91.
Yes.
91 now. So clearly the possibilities of something like this happening are basically there's no chance. There's like the slightest percentage of a chance. But what I imagined was kind of inspired a bit by the tone of Logan, especially of like the quieter moments in Logan between Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. Now, what I was imagining, because here's the thing. So you could do a prequel. You could do because by the time we meet Dirty Harry, he's like 40 and he's already Dirty Harry. You could do a prequel, but again, that involves making a hero out of somebody, and you're basically showing like, how does this guy become this, violent cop? And it's kind of like, I don't want to be rooting for that guy. And like, actually, I was going to say Ryan Gosling, but Ryan Gosling now is the same age that Eastwood was when he made
but he
Dirty
still
Harry.
looks 15 years younger.
Right. I was like, Ryan Gosling would be a really good, like, younger Dirty Harry.
I was thinking the same thing.
But I don't, because
you're right.
It is somehow going to justify.
No. You're right. Because so let's say we do have this movie. I would call it Harry if I had to. And it's him becoming this person who he is, who breaks all the rules, who, maybe there are reasons why he hates women so much. Like, it would be bad. It would be really bad, because it's like, you're right. You wouldn't want to root for this person.
Yeah. So what I looked at, and I was like, all right, what is going to make me actually going to want to watch a sixth Dirty Harry movie? And yes, Harry's retired. No, Harry is not on active police duty, but there's a trial. And think of the Derek Chauvin trial, and imagine something similar to that. And Harry, who is, maybe he's in a home, and where really all they do is watch TV, and they talk about what they see on what they watch on TV.
Okay.
What if this is Harry's reckoning? And what if it's like, what if Harry, like, what if this is Harry saying, like, before I die, do I need to atone for some things? And through watching, and I was like, this could be a play. Like, it could be a play where you have the trial going on and you have Harry responding to it and thinking like, is that guy me? Is that me 40 years ago?
Right.
And like, I got to win. I'm a hero. And I was on the cover of San Francisco magazine. Like, they call him the Wyatt Earp of San Francisco. And he's like, did all these, things. And I definitely put all these criminals away. but did I really do right by the law? And or was I like, maybe this is when maybe he's experiencing, this reckoning, this, defund the police. Maybe he said it in 2020. I don't know. Said it in 2020 during COVID when there's a pandemic and he has nothing to do but sit and watch TV. Although then how is there a trial going on? Anyway,
it's over Zoom.
That's my, I mean, yeah, or I don't know. Or what if you've got a series of trials and everyone is like, you know what? I grew up reading about this real life, like this Harry Callahan and Sarah. And I said, that's what I want to be. And it's like, I want to lock up criminals no matter what I have to do. And that's who inspired me. And what if he's like, does he have to testify or something? I don't know. I kind of like it with just him experiencing this trial and the movie being about how that guy who got away with it because he did all this shit back before there were any type of consequences. How is he processing this? Yeah. Is he rooting for that cop? Is he ashamed of himself? Is there a reckoning? So, and to me, there was something, and I was thinking, I was like, well, how do you take a movie like that and make it, and make it resonate? And that's why I thought like James Mangold would be a kind of an obvious choice, maybe just because I was thinking so much of Logan. But I was like, Michael Mann. That'd be interesting. It would be interesting for Michael Mann, and I was thinking of some other directors. I thought about Patty Jenkins because I was thinking about Monster.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what, I know like Patty Jenkins, we think now like, Wonder Woman.
Right.
And she kicks ass with that. I believe that's on the lineup of films.
That played last night at the for when we're recording this. Yeah.
Yes. So that played on July 2nd, right? So yeah. So that was kind of who I was thinking about. It would be interesting to see how a filmmaker like Barry Jenkins.
Oh, you could do Patty and Barry Jenkins, team them up.
Oh yeah. Make it the Jenkins. Didn't even make that connection. But yeah, I don't know. That's where I think you're going to get your highest quality.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry movie.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, had some similar thoughts, clearly I also did think about like, what if there was a prequel? And then I came to pretty much the same conclusion that you did, where it's like, about how somebody is a giant asshole, like how that shapes up. But no, I was thinking a little bit more about, and I don't think it could happen just because, he's just too old, I think. But, if there was a place for him to be in this character one more time in a way that he doesn't necessarily have to be very active. But what I was thinking is like, maybe there is a somebody who's on the San Francisco police force who disobeys all the orders, is essentially a modern day Dirty Harry who plays by his own rules, and and maybe he's taken it too far and they're trying to get somebody to control him. So they bring in the only person they know who can think like him, Harry Callahan. Kind of like a Silence of the Lambs type of situation, like get into the mind of the criminal. But yeah, I don't know. I think that would never happen, because there's no way that Clint Eastwood would ever admit that like his character was wrong to do what he did. Right. I do feel like Clint Eastwood has such ownership of that character and that character's beliefs. So I don't know. It is a tough one. I mean, I think I do like the idea of, like maybe do reboot the series and like do it better and give it the proper treatment And really just honor the thing that makes Dirty Harry Dirty Harry. His name is Dirty Harry because he gets all the dirtiest jobs of he's like the Mike Rowe of the San Francisco Police Department for any reality TV fans. Like cast somebody who's, just like a younger kind of somebody who's got like a good, I don't know, darker side to them that gives them the drive to kind of play by their own rules. I was thinking Riz Ahmed would be really cool as a Dirty Harry.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My mind obviously went to Ryan Gosling at first because I was like, he's got that like brooding thing. But then I was like, first of all, no, it shouldn't just be another white guy. But also it's like I've already seen Ryan Gosling as the cop that I only ever want him to be, and that's in The Nice Guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I think a lot about, Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling too.
Yeah. But it's not like he was playing the like Harrison Ford character. He was his own person.
No.
Yeah.
Riz Ahmed, great choice.
Thank you.
Great choice. Also, because if you're going to remake Dirty Harry, and of course, especially as I was watching the Deadpool, I was like, man, like Liam Neeson at a certain point would have been a great like new Dirty Harry. Not at this point. And he
like
kind
90s.
Like before he started doing basically like Eastwood type roles in, every type of situation where he has to avenge something.
Right. Yeah.
So. But I love the idea of Riz Ahmed. I think, he's kind of, I think he can definitely present like a cop, but I can very easily see him being the cop who doesn't give a shit about authority.
Right.
And is like, fuck it, like this is my job. My job is to catch criminals, and that is what I am going to do. And also in terms of like aside from the fact that as an actor, he's a great actor for it, in terms of rebooting a series with a lot of problems in terms of race, it's a big not casting a white guy.
Yeah, I think that also a big problem that I had with Clint Eastwood is that as an actor, he's just so wooden. Like I never feel like there's anything behind like what's written on the page for him. I never feel like there's any depth to his characters. I mean, I haven't seen everything he's been in. I liked him in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I think that's because that character is meant to be so mysterious.
I've got one, the only one that I can think of, and this is part of why I like it so much, is Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, I haven't seen in a long time. I don't remember hating him in $1 Million Baby. But like, I think that he had a little bit more depth there, but
he does,
his characters. What's up?
He also does a really good job of casting actors who can do that.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about $1 Million Baby. It's like, well, you got Morgan Freeman and Hilary Swank right there. And he's Morgan Freeman in Unforgiven. Even Gene Hackman's character. What I love about Unforgiven is it's kind of like the one movie of his that feels like some type of effort at redemption for all of the violence he's done on film. And Unforgiven being a movie that kind of frowns upon violence and looks at it as a necessary evil.
I need to watch that one again.
A pleasure.
I'll try to watch that one again.
I rewatched it. I mean, definitely within the past couple of years, and talk about a movie.
But anyway, So just circling back. So what I'm talking about is how, like, his in as Dirty Harry, and in some of the other roles, he seems like he's maybe at certain points supposed to be acting sympathetic and acting like he cares about other people. But I just never get that. I think that Clint Eastwood is just too much of a narcissist to really believably have compassion for another character in a movie that he's in.
Which is why it makes so much sense that he really became the producer and director of so many of his movies. So that he could I was thinking about this watching, not in this context. I was like, Clint was really smart in getting into the whole directing and producing game a little, like on the early side in his career, because he started directing in the early 70s.
Right.
And it's like he was really smart because he got to really like kind of control his brand.
Yeah. Yeah, and his brand works. People go to see went to see his movies, I should say. And definitely in the 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, it was a big deal when he had a movie coming out, and it's almost just like he played a trick on everybody. At least that's the way that I see it. But that's kind of classic narcissist behavior, right? So
yeah.
But what I mean is that somebody like Riz Ahmed has so much depth and can really, really, really show you that it's not just the words on the page. There's something way more than that.
Well, and you know what? And that's where we might want to even not just reboot the series by remaking Dirty Harry, but actually give that kind of origin story with Riz Ahmed in the role, because then you're getting the beginnings and you're getting the motivation, and it's not justifying something.
Yeah.
It's showing you who the character is.
Right. Just real quick, the only way that you'd be able to justify something, and I'm not saying that you should, would be to make it clear that Harry Callahan is on the autism spectrum, and the things that he does as, an officer of the law and just as a, person living in the world are a result of, this inhibitor in him that, makes him act certain ways. Or, it's like, I am here to stop this crime. I will stop this crime. And I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying that that's the only way that you could justify that behavior without making it just be like, nope, this is just, somebody who's selfish and,
Yeah. And like, there's been controversy over the representation of autism on film, especially the new, what's her name? The singer she made a movie about like an autistic singer, Sia. Yeah. And it's really gotten a lot of, criticism, and rightfully so.
Of course. Yeah.
I feel like that would be nothing compared to this. You know what I just discovered, John?
What's
so
up?
2 notes. First of all, I want to say regarding like kind of the emotional aspect of Eastwood, I noticed that the movies that he has directed and not starred in have had much more of an emotional core. And I'm talking about Changeling.
I was just thinking of Changeling.
Mystic River.
Right. Mystic River. Mm-hmm.
Letters from Iwo Jima.
Right.
Definitely. Those are kind of those are the 3 that, as I'm looking at his filmography, I'm thinking, I was like, those movies had a lot of heart, but they Invictus as well. I was like, those movies, they had a lot of heart, and he directed them, but not in them.
Yeah.
But so he's got a movie coming out this year.
Which one does he have coming out this year?
According to his Wikipedia page, Cry Macho.
I did hear about that.
He's directing, and he's playing a former radio star who is hired to return a young man in Mexico to his father in the United States.
I saw the trailers. I think this was supposed to be a pre-COVID release.
Okay, yeah, because it's coming out in September this year. Oh, yeah. Well, production took place during COVID.
I feel like I saw a trailer for this at some point.
Because it says it was October 2020 that it was kind of like reported that he was doing it. And then it says that they shot for 2 months in New Mexico during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is there a trailer out for this?
Let's find out.
Yeah, it
anyway,
looks like it.
So it's real. I mean, I'm sure there is. If you said you saw a trailer for it,
yeah,
that makes
okay. 3 months
sense.
ago, a trailer came out.
Yeah. So, so interesting. You know, Eastwood still up and
Still
at
doing
it. 91, and I'm interested considering the themes of this. Curious to see how that's gonna wind up.
Yeah, I don't remember if I heard any of his political thoughts really since like the Romney campaign. So
was that when he talked to the chair?
I think that's when he talked to the chair. And of course, looking back, it's like, okay, well, that wouldn't have been as bad as maybe we thought it would have been. But now that we know a little bit better, but you know, still, it was just like put a bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of not asking questions, and we kind of know from these films where he stands on things, and my stance on Eastwood is pretty, you know, it's like, it's not like I've ever been a huge Clint Eastwood fan.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I feel like he has his characters be a certain way about feel a certain way about other races just so that he can justify using slurs.
You're talking about Gran Torino?
Gran Torino and Dirty Harry, like
Gran Torino and Dirty, but Gran Torino, it's like a plot point.
Oh, absolutely. And it made me feel so uncomfortable when I saw that. Oh, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And when people talk about that movie as a movie that they like, I just feel so uncomfortable. I'm like, how did you not just like cringe while watching that movie? Like, it made me feel so sick.
It's cringy. I think you don't cringe because I feel like, at least when I watched it, I went in knowing that, like, okay, he's like, it's gonna turn around kind of, but it's also, it's like just littered with a lot of, it basically makes the argument that like, oh, a little casual racism isn't bad. There's a scene with him and John Carroll Lynch that I used I made a video in grad school, and it was all like stereotypes and slurs in film and television.
Oh.
And I used a scene from Gran Torino, of course.
Yeah.
It was a little more recent at the time. And it's the scene where he walks into the barber shop where John Carroll Lynch is, and they're just throwing racial slurs back and forth at each other, like dumb Pollock and like stinking Irishman.
John Carroll Lynch, possibly the Zodiac killer in Zodiac? You tell me. Maybe it's Charles Fleischer. We don't know.
Possibly the Zodiac killer. Definitely awesome in Zodiac.
Definitely awesome. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
So, John, anything else that you have to add about Dirty Harry?
I don't have anything to add, but why don't we play that last Dirty Harry reference clip to lead into our episode for next week?
Oh, yes.
I don't want to do business with you deadbeats anyway. Thank you. The only one I think I can deal with is that Growlin' Poe's daughter. I think she understands me.
You leave her alone, you...
Go ahead. Make my millennium.
Yes. The time has come. We're talking about one of my all-time favorites, 1988, Tim Burton's Beetlejuice.
I'm so excited. Like, I'm going to be going to see it at the we're calling it the open air cinema next weekend. And I feel like I'm also just going to watch it before that at home, just so I, can just to get into it. It's just so good.
Very rewatchable.
It's so rewatchable. It's one of those movies that, like we were saying before, has truly stood the test of time. It's just delicious. I love this movie. Can't wait to talk about it.
Delicious indeed.
So, Dan, any last thoughts? Everybody obviously should email us, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Check out that link tree for all sorts of stuff.
Vote for Statute of Limitations. Check out the Northwest Film. I'm fucking it up.
nwfilm.org.
nwfilm.org. And I was about to say have a happy 4th of July, but if you're listening to this, then it has already been the 4th of July. So
that's right.
We hope that you had a safe and restful 4th of July weekend. And that is all I have to say about that.
Yeah, well, Dan, while you're riding in the back of a SFPD cruiser, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.